When tourists come to New Zealand, there's a bunch of activities that everybody does, right? There's things like they go visit Hobbiton, and then they go to Queenstown and they jump off a bridge doing bungee jumping. By the way, that's my dog you hear in the background.
Why are you humping me?
And they go to the top of the Sky City Tower, they go swim with dolphins, or whatever they do, right? And a lot of these activities I actually did when I first arrived in New Zealand. But there's one activity that I completely did not think was possible for me to do, and it took me forever to try it. Sailing. With Auckland being the most populous city in the entire world per capita having boats. I don't know if that sentence even made sense. With Auckland having more boats per capita than any other city in the entire world, why did it never occur to me that I could go sailing? Well, for one, I didn't grow up in a childhood home where sailing was normalized. There were moments in my childhood where I went to bed hungry, and I thought that sailing was something that only rich people do. Nobody in my close network were sailors, and I thought you had to have a lot of skill to be a sailor, so it didn't occur to me that it was something that I could quite quickly and easily learn. But what if I told you that now I sail regularly and completely free? I'm gonna tell you how to do that, but first, why is sailing so popular in New Zealand? It's not like it's the only country in the world with a ton of coastline. Well, it starts 3,000 years ago in West Polynesia. The Polynesians were amazing navigators, using the stars and wind patterns to navigate and discover islands to the east. Some of the Polynesians stayed and sailed the islands along the way. Around 1300 AD, some of those settlers navigated their way to New Zealand, which was the last place to be discovered by the Polynesians, and also the last place to be colonized by the Europeans a few hundred years later. However, sailing didn't become a recreational sport until about 150 years ago. Interestingly, in a short time, New Zealand became one of the international leaders in yacht designs, but one swift decision completely destroyed the industry. In 1979, the current Prime Minister of New Zealand, Robert Muldoon, was facing issues with not enough taxes. He had been provided a list of industries in which it would be appropriate to increase taxation. But according to legend, Muldoon was short on time due to an overseas trip and made a swift decision to implement a 20% tax on boats, caravans, and pottery. The announcement was made and effective at midnight the same day. Within days, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of orders were canceled, and over 100 boating businesses declared bankruptcy. The boat building industry never recovered, and New Zealand fell off the map. But New Zealanders are a hardy bunch, and sailing is in their bones. Probably the most evident way you can see this is through the crowds that come out for the America's Cup, one of the world's most iconic sailing races. The latest 2021 America's Cup was hosted in New Zealand, since we were the most recent winners, and was the most watched of all time with 941 million viewers and almost 39,000 visitors to Auckland just to view the race.
This is the eastern or downtown entrance to the Cup Village. 25,000 people can come in here at any one time and enjoy some of the attractions like the simulator where you can fly one of the America's Cup boats, have a look at the super yachts, or get a close-up look at how the team set out each day.
Now, I will just point out that there is some local controversy around this, as an official report showed that for every dollar spent, 28 cents was lost. Despite this, I'd bet you that if you listened to most New Zealanders' complaints about the America's Cup, they'd be way more upset about the fact that Team New Zealand sold our hosting rights to Spain for the 2024 competition. When I say sailing is in New Zealanders' bones, I mean it.
Come on, Miranda!
Sailing programs start as young as 5 years old, and as of 2021, all school children will have the opportunity to learn how to sail. So why do so many people in New Zealand sail in the first place? Well, with 15,000 kilometers of stunning coastline, sheltered sounds, and island-dotted harbors, New Zealand has literally everything you can ask for. So how do you do that? Well, one of the most common ways is through the rum races, typically hosted by the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. You sail on a boat in a race, and then at the end of the race, they give a rum bottle to the team that won. That's why they're called the rum races. And you typically need to show up with a 6-pack of beer for the skipper. That's kind of like your way of paying your way into the boat. The only problem though is the only way to really learn how to sail with these kind of boats is that you have to show up regularly, because they're not going to give you like the responsibilities that would help you learn how to sail unless they know that they can depend on you as crew. So it's a bit of a time commitment. It's gonna be like a weekly thing, and you're gonna have to probably put in a good 6 months before you feel comfortable sailing.
I got fun.
You can also join a yacht club. I am part of the Richmond Yacht Club. I actually don't recommend the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, mostly because they made a deal with me that they were going to give me a membership in exchange for me making a video about them on my old channel, and then they didn't follow through. But they are classy. They have a lot of, cool events and resources and stuff like that. They've got a bar. They're nice. Richmond Yacht Club is just way more casual, and those are my people. Richmond Yacht Club. So when I went sailing with the Richmond Yacht Club for the first time, I made friends with a chick named Anna. Anna's become one of my patrons. She's a friend, and now I go out on her boat.
Husband, say hello, Anna. Hi. Oh, Tim. Brewing.
The other one is online sailing groups. So there's two groups in New Zealand. There's the New Zealand Sailing and New Zealand Sailing Community, and you can go onto those groups and let people know that you want to learn how to sail. There's a lot of people who really love sailing and they want nothing but to be able to share it with someone. There is a caveat to that I will talk about later, which is safety, but it's pretty easy to find a boat that's looking for crew. So all of that is not gonna get you on an ocean crossing, which is kind of the next level. If you want to have a true New Zealander experience, that's what you should be aiming for, unless you get seasick and then you're screwed. But so how do you do that? When you are done sailing, help clean up.
Scrub-a-dub-dub.
When you're on the boat, be proactive about helping out. Like, try to learn, ask questions. Basically, be good crew. Get yourself a good reference. Get yourself a bunch of good references. Don't go posting yourself in a bikini or in shorts in like a wife beater and trying to be crew. Like, get yourself in a sailing jacket with sailing gloves and show people that you're serious, because there's a lot of people competing for an ocean crossing space, and you're not gonna get it if you don't look the part. I got dog hair in my mouth. Track your miles, get qualifications, and start building yourself a sailing resume. That is one of the best ways that you can get on ocean crossing, is by looking professional and being able to back it up with an official piece of paper. The goal ultimately here is to get yourself on at least one long passage, something that is preferably overnight. And that could be something as simple as like going from Auckland to Bay of Islands, going from Auckland to Wellington, going across the Cook Strait. Like, you need to do at least one very important major passage that's around the coastline. The best time to start doing that is actually right now. So the cyclone season is starting up north in the Pacific Islands, and then right now all the boats are preparing to go down south on the South Island rally and, look at all the cool stuff down there. Come hither, come hither, come hither. Let all your connections know that you are interested in doing an ocean crossing. In fact, I would say let people know that you want to do ocean crossing that you don't know. I messaged Vicky from Island Cruising, and I reached out to the NZ Sailing Facebook community, and eventually I got a passage. Now, I was really lucky that I got one that was paid because I have a YouTube channel and was able to offer some advertising, but you should be prepared. You should be prepared to pay for your first ocean crossing. And by paid for, I mean that you have to pay for your flights there. Typically speaking, they will pay for your expenses when you're on the boat coming back to New Zealand or going up north, whatever one you decide to do. But not every captain or every boat is created equal. And you have a responsibility to keep yourself safe when you get on someone's boat, even in the early days when you're first learning how to sail. And so I'm about you to go sailing from Fiji to New Zealand on a delivery, and well, I'm gonna tell you about how I kept myself safe and made sure that when I was gonna spend 8 days at sea, I knew I could trust this captain. I always have people that are surprised that I do this thing that I do that keeps me safe. And let me just start out with, it's your life that's at risk. Boats sink, guys. Boats sink. I know people who've had their boats sink. What I do is I interview the captain.
Do you trust us?
We'll see.
Fair enough. That is exactly how you should be, though.
It sounds a little silly. He's the person in charge, or she's the person in charge. They're the person in charge. But I always interview the captain, and there's 2 reasons why I do that. For one, I want to know if I can trust that person, and 2, if I ask him, hey, do you have an EPIRB? Like, that's kind of a no-brainer. You should have an EPIRB if you're going to cross an ocean, and if you don't know what an EPIRB is or why it's important when you're crossing an ocean, you probably shouldn't be crossing an ocean. It actually makes me look like I know what I'm talking about when I ask questions to the captain. There's one question that I always ask the captains. If you want to know all of the questions that I ask, then feel free to like comment below. Maybe I can make a list together and let you guys know what I actually ask. But there's one question I think is super duper important, right? Ask a captain, do you have anything that happened with past crew or any pet peeves or anything that people did that really just kind of irked you and pissed you off that you could tell me so we can start out on the right footing? It works every time. They love you. They're like, oh, you're being really conscientious. Thanks for that. So you've interviewed the captain and you've determined that they're safe, and you asked about the boat and you know it has all the safety equipment that you think is necessary, right? And you've got your ticket, you're ready to fly to the country, which for me is Fiji tomorrow. There is still one thing that I absolutely 100% have to do before I will ever get on that boat for an ocean crossing. And I'll see you in Fiji tomorrow. Good morning, Whānau. So it is 6:40 in the morning, and at 8 o'clock, meeting with customs, check out of Fiji, and head on our ocean passage. Woohoo! So we are at Denero Marina, which is the nicer of the 2 in Nandi. One thing you should note is that there's a huge range of marinas. Like I said, this one's the classy one. And one thing that I didn't know when I first started sailing is that there are marinas for poor people. It sounds like a really funny way to put it, sorry. Honestly, I'm like buzzing. I can feel my whole body is like alive, like pins and needles of excitement to get going. Being at sea is, for me, the part I love the most. There's something just awe-inspiring about it, but I'll show you that in episode 2 of this series, what it's actually like being at sea, because the first 2 days freaking suck.
Oh, is it a top-down code zero? Feels from the top down.
Showing himself to be a captain I could trust, Captain Darren immediately got into proudly showing us every corner of the boat. But most boats I delivered don't have the owners on board, and it's each crew's responsibility to make sure there's enough water, food, fuel, communication devices, GPS, spare sails, and anything else you might need at sea. Because once you're out there, you're on your own.
Just flick that to cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use the handle.
The handle's just on the inside.
Gotcha.
You feeling safe on this boat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you say it like that?
I'm feeling really relaxed. I'm like, but you just never know what can happen out there
Yeah.
as well.
Do you feel like the captain's safe?
Yeah, absolutely. He's obviously so organised. You just see it in his boat, in his thinking, in his communication.
Why is that
Everything,
important?
They're your safety net.
Exactly.
They're there to keep you safe. Yeah.
Do you feel safe with the
Yeah,
captain?
yeah,
What makes you
absolutely.
feel safe with him?
He's super competent. He's done the trip before, and also I think the boat, as Anna said, super well prepared. Everything in its place, everything has its place. Yeah, and the boat looks just immaculate, really, doesn't it?
In the sailing world, there's a tradition. Only a couple hundred years ago, the total career of a British sailor was around 5,000 to 10,000 nautical miles. Sailors would mark each 5,000 nautical miles with a swallow tattoo, typically on their chest. You see, swallows often were the first birds that sailors would see when nearing land, and they came to represent a homecoming. This trip will earn me my first swallow tattoo at over 6,000 nautical miles, which is more than double the distance of the Atlantic Ocean. Only 4 years ago, I couldn't even imagine sailing. It seemed inaccessible, privileged, beyond my possible skill. Today, I'm paid crew, and I'm reminded that we never know where life will take us if we're willing to be open. Now you know what it takes to get on an ocean crossing, but you won't be having much fun if you don't know how to prepare for the first 48 hours at sea. Hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss out.